Hi, I'm Kelsey with roughandtumblefarmhouse.com, and today we are going to make a simple and super delicious farmhouse pudding. I love a good pudding. To me, a pudding is just really that quintessential sort of farmhouse dessert because you pretty much have everything you need for the pudding right here on the farm. You've got your milk from your cow or your goats, you've got butter, well I guess if you got a cow you got butter, and you've got eggs. And if you got those three main things, you really have the basics for what you're going to need for a really tasty dessert. Now for this recipe you are going to need 1/2 cup of butter, 2/3 cup sugar, it can be brown sugar or just regular sugar. You're going to need 4 cups of whole milk, 2 eggs, a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. To make this recipe, you are going to need a 4-quart stock pot, a whisk, rubber spatula, and of course various measuring spoons and measuring cups. Now I love this recipe because everything just gets mixed together in one pot. So first we're going to be adding in our milk. Then we'll be adding in our eggs. I like to crack my eggs ahead of time just to make sure that I don't get any little bits of shell or anything in my recipe. And then we are going to whisk that all together really well. Alright, once that is whisked up, we are going to add in our sugar. And whisk that in too. And now you want to be whisking these together over a medium heat or a medium low. We're going to add our thickener, whether you're using cornstarch or flour. A lot of times you'll make a slurry rather than just putting everything in the pot at once. But I find with this recipe I really haven't had any problems with it getting stuck or clumpy in there. But you really want to make sure that cornstarch gets mixed in thoroughly, otherwise you'll get a big old mouthful of cornstarch. You just check to make sure that there are no little white lumps floating around in there. And at this point now, all we have to do is wait for it to thicken. So now we're going to switch from our whisk. I don't like using the whisk because I find that after this point, the spatula works much better. Otherwise, I do tend to get some scorching from the milk. So we will switch over to our spatula, and as it's heating pretty constantly, we are going to be stirring from the bottom. So you put the bottom of your rubber spatula straight on the bottom and stir this way, and that will help prevent your milk from scorching and from burning down there. Now we are going to keep this up pretty much until this comes to a boil or a low simmer. If you do turn the heat up higher, you can get there faster, but then you do run the risk of getting some scorching. So I find right around a medium. You can maybe bump it up to a medium/medium high, and that will also be fine, just as long as you're very diligent about continuing to stir. Now as I am stirring, I will run it across the bottom and then lift the spatula up to see if it is starting to coagulate, if it's starting to come together. And so it's not there quite yet, but you'll see here in just a minute how it is going to start thickening up. And once it does start to thicken up, it really goes pretty quick from there. So here we are starting to thicken up. If we go like this across the bottom and lift, you can see that it's starting to get kind of clumpy. So at this point you really want to make sure you keep up that gentle stirring, because in probably less than a minute here we are going to be at our pudding consistency. So you can see it's starting to get kind of lumpy. And then once it starts to get lumpy, it really is going to thicken up very quickly. And so you just keep stirring, and again keeping that spatula down along the bottom, because we are just about to where we want to be. And again, that's up to you how thick you like your pudding. And I'm just going to keep this going a little bit here. And really stir now to keep it good and smooth. Alright, that is about as thick as I want it to get. So we are going to take it off the heat. And now we are going to add in our butter and our vanilla. And I like to take my butter and kind of cut it up into smaller chunks, because that way it will break down a lot faster in there. And you can add even more butter to this recipe, but I find that a whole stick seems like it's plenty because it's pretty rich. And then stir that all in. Add vanilla, And you always add vanilla towards the end because vanilla has it's mostly made up of alcohol, truthfully, and that will evaporate if you add it earlier in the cooking process. So that's why vanilla gets added right here at the end. And so you just keep stirring until it looks good and smooth and all of your butter is melted in there. Now if you do like a really smooth pudding, you can bring back out that whisk and whisk it up at this point. We personally like to have it so it's a little bit lumpy, I guess, which might be a bit odd, but that's how we like it. And there you go, all done. And that's it. Super simple dessert you can easily whip up in no time at all. There are a lot of different variations you can do in terms of butterscotch and chocolate and super rich vanilla, little additions you can make. So check below in the description box. I will have a link to my blog where you can get more information about those different variations. One thing I will say too is if you are a skin-on pudding or not skin-on pudding, if you let the pudding cool at air temperature with no covering, you're going to get that skin on top. If you put it right in the fridge and have it covered well, you shouldn't develop that skin. I was very anti skin on pudding when I ate instant puddings. I thought it was super gross, but for whatever reason, this pudding, when it develops the skin, it's kind of like a thick fudgy type layer. I don't know, it might be worth giving a try because it certainly made me a believer in letting skin develop on your pudding. So give it a shot. Thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. We have new videos every week about farming, family food, and fortitude here at our rough and tumble farmhouse. Hope you enjoy your pudding. Oh yeah, I should definitely make this.